A few months ago, in a Skype cast far, far away. After credits. Episode 2, Max of the Clones.
There's unrest in the Star Wars fandom. Several years into EA's exclusive license for Star Wars games has revealed their intentions to push loot boxes and microtransactions onto gamers. This movement, under the leadership of Andrew Wilson, has made it difficult to be excited for Jedi Fallen Order. AJ Wazakuk, host of the After Credits cast, is returning to the Star Wars fandom in their latest episodes. You can find on patreon.com/evacstation for less than the cost of a CGI clone army to solve all your problems. You can support his shows and assist the overwhelmed podcasters. Again, that's patreon.com/evacstation. Enjoy the show.
So, is anyone ever going to get into this Cypher Diaz guy? Probably not us, because we're the After Credits cast, and we only care about the here and now, not this non-canon extended universe bullshit. I'm your host, Erikin Skyseska, and with me today, I have Darth Tyrannus.
That's good shit.
I also have with us today, Max Windu.
Hello.
All right.
And of course, we can't forget everyone's favorite character from episode 6, who just showed up today, Rob Fett.
That's good. I like it.
I'm really trying not to make a Pokemon reference there, but that's all right.
I understand. I love it.
I'm trying super hard.
Well, me and the boys here are going to do a podcast with y'all, but before we get into that, I have some links for you down below. You can go to patreon.com/evacstation to support the show. We're also on YouTube, Peepa, iTunes, I guess Apple Podcasts now, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podcast Addict. You can also find us on social media all over the place. That's Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. Those are the only three I've bothered to make accounts for. I'll make more eventually. And, of course, you can also reach out to us via email directly to tell us who you think Cypher Diaz really was and why I should care. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is, I hate sand. Excuse me. That's evacstation@gmail.com. Sorry, had to clear my throat.
Yeah, you might have got some sand in your throat there.
I got some sand in my fucking throat. It's not good. It's not great.
Yeah, I hear it's rough and coarse. Gets everywhere. We'll get into that. Before we do, though, gentlemen, as we always begin every podcast with, what you watching? It's our segment where we talk about what we've been watching. Max, it has been since the Ghibli season since I've heard from you. So please, enlighten us on where you've been, your travels. How's life, man?
Right.
Is this just a catch-up? Is that what's going on right now?
I mean, it's kind of a catch-up since Ryan and I hear each other every week. We do like a little, just kind of recommending shows we've been seeing. But since we haven't seen you in, at least a year? You could go with whatever you want, man.
Well, shit. Hello, everybody. You probably recognize me as that prepubescent boy that used to be on the show ages ago.
If you're like me, you don't recognize him the fuck at all.
Well, everybody, here's what happened. I went to university, and then I went to Japan, and in between watched a sad amount of anime. And that's what my life has been like. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fair. Sounds reasonable. I've actually been picking up my anime, manga reading lately, and I've been trying a bunch of different series. I got one I'll recommend today, but I'll wait for you to finish up.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I mean...
Oh, okay.
Don't want to take up too much
everybody,
time.
I'll say, he's been gone a year, and he's just going to tell us that. Well, I'll just dive in real quick as a segue. So, Ryan, as you know, I've been starting different series like Food Wars and Kaguya-sama. I started a new one recently. It's a sci-fi series called Astra: Lost in Space.
Ooh.
It's about
Danger Will Robinson. Sorry.
Kinda, yeah. It's about this group of kids who are in high school, like all manga and anime, and they are sent into space for a camp. It's a futuristic society, so obviously, being in space is a regular occurrence for them. They go to basically a planet camp, and they hang out there, but they're sucked into this weird vortexy thing, and they're sent into space. They find an abandoned spaceship, and they realize that there's a bigger plot involved that might be them trying to get them killed or something. They don't know yet. I'm still pretty early in the series. But it's about them coming together and learning to survive as a team, and it's kind of refreshing to see this really happy-go-lucky group kind of overcome all their differences, and just the sci-fi cool alien exploration stuff is neat. So, yeah. Not my favorite one so far that I've been trying out this year, but I still recommend it. It's a good sci-fi series. Check it out.
Oh.
Astra, Lost in Space.
All right.
And they have an anime adaptation that's really new, so, yeah. Good stuff.
Space camp in actual space. I can dig it.
Man, I wish Space Camp would go to space. So we just went to the fucking, like, zoo or some shit.
That'd be pretty sweet.
All right, well, Robbie, what do you have on the docket? What have you been watching, sir?
Yeah. So one of the last times I talked to you guys, we were talking about the DC Universe app, and we were talking about Titans, and I hadn't finished it. I finally finished it. Can't wait for the next season, and it sounds like they're going to fire it out pretty soon. I got through most of Doom Patrol. I haven't finished yet, and then I've been catching up on Young Justice since they've been releasing them once a week.
I need to watch that.
Dude, I know some people don't like this season. I think it's great. It's been phenomenal, I think. And then they released some of the newer DC Universe animated movies. So I watched the Death of Superman and the Reign of Supermen.
How are those? I've been wanting to check those out.
I thought they were great. Batman Hush just came out.
I really
it's not on there.
It looks good.
But I have it. I bought it on Google Play. I just haven't watched it yet. So hopefully this week, because you know me, Batman.
Yep.
So.
I was gonna say Hush is a really good comic storyline. I really want to see the animated stuff. Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing.
How is that Swamp Thing?
I only watched the first episode, but I've heard good things. I'm definitely gonna watch the whole series. It kind of sucks I got canceled before it really got released. So.
Yeah, I heard about that. It feels like DC still doesn't quite know what they're doing, but I've heard good things about it. I wish it had managed to be something more.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I actually have a little bit of inside information about that. The reason for the cancellation wasn't really on the fault of the show itself, but rather they were doing their primary filming in North Carolina, and they were trying to work out contractual things with the state itself.
It was like tax stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, apparently there were discrepancies in what they had thought it was going to cost, and then it turned out it was going to cost more because the state was trying to get more money out of them. So, as of right now, it's currently shelved, but they're still trying to figure out how to resume filming, because that's a lot of revenue for the state to be losing out on. So yeah.
This is what you get when you mix in your big government with your movies. You got to be careful there, man.
But that's what happens though. All those places have tax breaks or whatever.
Oh yeah, I know.
And I know it's shitty, but it's unfortunately how it works.
I've just been in a mood since I've been starting up another series, which I'll get into next time, Ryan. But let's just say that it's a little political, a little bit of parks, a little bit of rec, but I'll get into that next time.
I will bite my tongue.
I have a lot to say, but I'll say it next time.
All right. Next time. I'll hold on to it.
Your week.
Yeah. So for me, I actually got in the habit of a weekly video date with my girlfriend Allegra.
Oh, sure.
And she has a thing for scary movies. So put me. She wanted to check out this movie. She hadn't seen it yet. It was a Hulu original called Pooka, Pooka. I was with an exclamation point at the end of it. I was very confused because it seemed to be a kind of like a holiday Christmas horror movie, and it was centered around a man in a big furry teddy bear suit.
I'm scared already.
Yeah. The central premise was that they were looking to market this new toy, which kind of had it had a naughty and nice function where it was, first of all, a creepy-ass looking bear with big eyes with LED lights that either lit up blue, and he said something very nice in a very high-pitched voice, and then red when he said something naughty in a very deep and troubled voice.
Hey kids, you wanna die?
No, but here is the thing. It repeats what you say, so it learns from like people that are around you, but you don't have control over what it picks up.
Like a parrot.
It just randomly will throw out a saying in a very nice voice or a very scary voice for no fucking reason.
So okay, just on that premise alone, you know what I want to do? I want to set this bear in front of a movie that's just all Willem Dafoe, and I want to see what it picks up from there. I'm gonna kill me that Spider-Man.
Can Spider-Man come out to play? See, man, you're getting me really off topic. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Already, long story short, the protagonist is the guy who wears the suit, the puka suit, which also has those big-ass LED lights, only human size. And he starts to develop a split personality between naughty and nice puka, and starts killing people. And it seems like a very cheaply made horror movie at first, but the ending is actually really, really good and takes it in a direction I was not expecting it to. So overall, it's actually something you should check out.
I mean, we've said before on the podcast that the best horror movies seem to be the ones that are made cheaply, because then they have the potential to grow into something really big. So I'm excited. Yeah. I want to see that. That sounds good.
It sounds fascinating.
I might actually watch it right after the podcast tonight, to be completely honest. So
you should. I laughed more than I was scared. Like it's not like a really scary movie. I was laughing the majority of the time, but the ending is actually pretty cerebral, and I really appreciated how they wrapped it up.
I bet you I can convince Amanda to watch that. That'll be something to watch this weekend. So yeah, I think that's everyone's week. So let's jump right on in to this week's film. Today, in our Star Wars celebration, we're looking at 2002's Attack of the Clones, written and directed by George Lucas, with writing assistance from Jonathan Hales. The film currently stands at a worldwide gross of $649,398,000 worldwide. That's, cumulative gross over the re-releases and whatnot, which is about 5.5 times what it cost. Consistent budget from the last one, not bad. The cast includes Jimmy Smits, Tamura Morrison, Ian McDiarmid, Frank Oz, Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Lee, Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen, and the real hero of this trilogy, Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
Fair. Very fair.
Notable awards for this film include Saturn Award for, again, Best Costumes and Special Effects, a BMI Film Music Award to John Williams again, not surprising, an Empire Award for Scene of the Year for the Yoda Duel. This also won an MTV Award for the quote-unquote Best Fight. 2 Golden Spirit Awards for John Williams' Across the Stars. 2 more Razzies for Worst Supporting Actor to Christensen, and Worst Screenplay, and another Stinker Award for Christensen. And Natalie Portman won an SFX Award and a Teen Choice Award for her performance.
All right.
Not bad. Not bad.
By the way,
Ryan?
Some of this is surprising to me.
Oh, really? What got you by surprise? I'm curious.
I wasn't all that impressed by the best fight scene with Yoda, to be completely honest.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
I concur, but we'll get into that. I definitely have reasons to agree with you.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll save that.
2002 was just a slow year.
That'll be a conversation point. Definitely. We do have some fun facts for you, John. 3 as usual. First up, just before Anakin goes to search for his mother on Tatooine, he has a conversation with Senator Amidala. The camera pans to their shadows as they talk, and Anakin's resembles that of Darth Vader. According to the DVD commentary, the Vader-like shadow that Anakin cast was not a sought-after visual effect, but actually just a really striking coincidence that they decided to keep in there.
Huh.
It's funny you say that because we were watching the movie and I was paying attention to that scene, forgetting completely about that fun fact, and then I saw, I'm like, oh my god, that's a Darth Vader shadow! There it is!
Like that's one of the things that they could have said nothing about and just gotten some more props. So like, man, good cinematography on them.
Yeah,
Good job.
yeah.
But yeah, all right, that was just fate trying to make the movie better than it was. Hey, fact number 2 is a historical fact. The Senate votes to give the Supreme Chancellor sweeping emergency powers to go to war against the separatist forces. This is the same ploy that Adolf Hitler used to gain similar dictatorial power in mid-1930s Germany.
This is true.
I was not the only one to catch that reference, and I am really historically ignorant.
I wrote a whole paper.
Yeah,
that goes into detail about that a little bit. So.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Very nice. So we have one final fact for you guys. Hayden Christensen claimed to have greatly enjoyed filming the bar scene because it was an actual real set and not just a green screen. This is kind of a sad fun fact because, well, like, when you have the actor saying, "Oh, this was my favorite because it wasn't a green screen," you're like, really? That's it's a low bar, but all right.
Yeah.
I do want to chime in one thing. So we talked about, Max, you brought up the idea that 2002 was a slow year. You're not entirely wrong, but I did bring up the top movies of 2002 box office-wise.
Spider-Man.
Just to see what was in there. And Robbie, you're correct. Spider-Man came out that year.
Huh.
Lord of the Rings, Two Towers came out that year.
Yeah.
Harry Potter 2, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Signs of all things, and Austin Powers 3.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck did... I did not like that Yoda duel, especially now.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I promise.
Alrighty.
We'll get there.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. You think that would have beaten it for sure.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We want to get some initial thoughts before Aaron tries to make us spit out all of our drinks in this synopsis.
Oh yeah, I've got a
Tell me,
fun
guys,
synopsis. Don't you worry.
Yeah. We gotta pump the brakes.
All right, so initial thoughts. So this is what we discussed prior to the film. This is kind of our thoughts going into it. So I'll pop in real quick. I remember this movie as a kid. I liked it. I liked it a lot growing up because there was a lot more action in this one, and we got a Yoda fight compared to the first movie. Having seen it now, growing up, and looking back on it, it's not as fun as I remember it being, and I'll definitely get into that here when we just get into the deeper discussion.
All right.
This is fair. Robbie, Max?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I was about the same age as Max is now. No, I'm just kidding. I was 13 when this came out. I went to it in the theater, and same as you, Aaron, I was like in the action scenes. You know, you had these Jedis with their lightsabers. You know, Mace Windu with his purple one, and the Yoda fight. I'm like, oh, this is really fucking cool. But like rewatching it recently, I'm like, a little different when I'm in my 30s. So that's my initial thoughts.
Max, how about you?
Pretty much similar boat to where, like, when I was like 5 or 6, my dad showed me all the prequels, and then I was like, I love them. But this weekend I sat down with my little cousin to continue the tradition, and yeah.
Does your cousin hate you now?
Yes, we have become... He disowned me. My 6-year-old cousin
that stings.
looked at me and
Bigger.
he was like, "Why would you show me this?"
Oh,
What the fuck is this bullshit?
That's pretty brutal.
That's rough.
See, I hope when I have kids, I'll show this to them, but they'll be so young they won't remember it, and by the time they rewatch it, they're like, did I ever see this? What is this?
Jedi mind trick, bro. Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'll jump in there with my initial thoughts, and it's pretty much in the same vein as you guys. I loved it when I was younger. The idea of seeing the Jedi fight en masse and like these lost forms of combat finally getting to like be showed and whatnot, and like it was super cool for me personally. Reviewing it now that I'm nearly 30, I like that they were like experimenting with different genres in this. Like they tried to do a little bit of like a detective kind of spin in this movie, and I appreciate them trying to adapt, trying to do something new. But every scene with Hayden Christensen is fucking awkward, and it just weighs the whole movie down. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they tried. Yeah. I feel like they tried to do something different, but it's just the cast, it wasn't really up to par. So yeah.
To kind of foreshadow next episode, I genuinely think he gets better in the next movie, but only in increments. I don't think it's like an overwhelmingly huge improvement.
Yeah, he was definitely working on his craft, and like you definitely see an improvement in the third movie, but he's not that great.
No.
I think they probably should have got somebody else for this.
I wonder if he'll come back as a Force Ghost in episode 9.
Oh. All right, buddy. You've gone a little bit.
Alongside Darth Binks.
Murder.
Yes.
Just murder.
We need a whole podcast on Darth Binks, because I am fully on board with that.
Ryan, you're outvoted.
You know what? We can bring up some fan fiction.
We'll just talk about that instead. I like it.
Well,
so anyway, synopsis, yeah?
We have a synopsis. It's basically fan fiction, so let's get into it then.
Alright, I'm ready.
Assassins are after Padme at the behest of Count Dooku. The only 2 Jedi we have on speed dial are here to show up. One of which is Obi-Wan, the other is a horny, creepy Anakin, now of legal drinking age, I think. They save Padme from a bounty hunter who is, in turn, killed. To protect her, they send her to Naboo, with sexually repressed Anakin while Jar Jar assumes her duties. Does no one say anything? Does no one step in and point out the problems here at all? It's what Palpatine wants? Okay, moving on. Obi-Wan investigates Kamino, where these tall fuckers tell him a Jedi ordered an army of clones. Don't remember if the billing details are ever discussed. Jango Fett, another bounty hunter, was used as a template for these clones because everything has to tie back to the original trilogy. Jango is uncomfortable with Obi-Wan poking around and attacks him rather than play it cool. A chase happens and Obi-Wan tracks Jango to Geonosis. Meanwhile, forced romance and anti-Saiyan propaganda happen with Anakin and Padme until dreams of his dying mother kill his boner.
God damn it.
Anakin insists that they go to Tatooine, where he finds the Tusken Raiders have kidnapped and killed his mom. He kills them all, foreshadowing some bullshit before we get to his mom's funeral. Before he gives his mom a funeral. He then gets information from Obi-Wan about goings on Geonosis just before Obi-Wan is captured. I guess it's time for a rescue mission. On Coruscant, the Jedi are given an update, and Jar Jar, in a panic, pushes to give Palpatine emergency power so he can control the still yet-to-be-paid clone army. Anakin, Padme, R2, and C-3PO comically get lost in a factory on Geonosis while looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi, before they are captured and sent to be executed. But their oddly monster-themed executions interrupted by Mace Windu declaring the party is now over. Fighting happens, Boba Fett gets motivation to be evil, and our 2 Jedi boys chase Dooku to his ship. More fighting happens, but the Jedi boys lose. Yoda comes in to save the day with over-the-top CGI fighting, but Dooku still escapes to push forward with the plan to bring down the government. His master is happy, and so is Palpatine, who now commands an army to start a war of clones. Anakin and Padme have a secret wedding, which is probably illegal because they have no human witnesses, but whatever. That's the future Anakin's problem.
Also, it's problematic because she's like fucking 10, 15 years older than him. But that's neither here nor there.
They're super unclear about that age difference in this episode, too. It's fucking weird.
It is on purpose. I
was not here for episode 1 of this podcast in regards to this.
Yep.
Please tell me you guys talked about the fact of how old she was. Okay,
yes.
Good. I'm glad that we've all...
No. I was asking. Yes, they probably should have. Did you?
Okay.
Yes, we did. Okay,
yes.
Good. Okay.
It was notable.
I believe it was one of the first points I brought up.
Good. I'm glad we've covered bases here.
So it's still creepy, and it's even creepier. I guess we should just jump straight into the romance subplot because it's one of the many problems with this film. So it's weird that it's like this age difference, but also it's just creepy how the romance dialogue and Anakin's general like
doesn't make any sense. Like, he is so fucking weird. Like, why?
He's
all right,
awkward AF.
Awkward.
No lie.
And like, why is she even into that? I mean, she's the senator of Naboo. She knew this kid as a little boy, and he's like the worst. Like, I don't get it at all. Like,
it's
when
like
they finally.
It's like when you have this little cousin you grew up with for a while, and he's this cute kid, and then all of a sudden he gets like puberty, and all of a sudden he's this creepy weird kid, and you're like, oh, you're one of them. I'll see you when you're 21 and have grown out of this bullshit.
Like,
I didn't get it. Like,
she has so much going for her, right?
yeah, exactly.
And
That's what I mean.
like, instead, there's this little awkward asshole that just hangs around you 24/7. You're like, yeah, I'll take it. Why not?
Well, like, he's like that. He's like the squeaky voiced teen from Simpsons, where he's obviously in training of being a Jedi. He's not even a full Jedi yet, and he's got all this like weird horny looks on his face that makes it seem like he's gonna rape you, but he's not gonna because it's a movie, and that'd be weird. But at the same time, it's like you're not comfortable being around him, and you don't think he's washed his hands in a while. You know where they've been. And it's just really uncomfortable.
Oh my god, you put it perfectly. Yeah, like it's just every look, especially in the beginning, like the initial like bits of the movie where like he's interacting with Padme for like the first time in a decade, and he just doesn't fucking know how to act. And there's like one point where he has like a whiny fucking like he throws like a hissy fit, and she just doesn't even fucking acknowledge it. It's just like, all right, well anyway, we're gonna keep on going.
And then he pouts about it, and he's like, she didn't even like look at me. And Obi-Wan's like, bro, you're supposed to be a fucking Jedi. Don't bitch about this.
And then
shit.
he wrote a Tumblr post about it later, so...
Yeah. Exactly. Damn it.
I respect Padme a little bit, though.
Booked about it.
Yeah.
No, but I respect Padme a little bit, though, in that one scene where he's just bitching about his job for, like, a good 10 minutes. I'm like, she's just sitting there listening patiently and, like, not addressing it directly and just trying to move on. I'm like, girl, I appreciate you trying to get through this conversation. I know you don't want to be there, but good lord, this is just... I would fucking have killed him by now if I were you.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I would attribute that to her, her senatorial duties.
Oh, of course.
And just like probably having to talk to people that she would much rather stab in a dark alley than like politely converse with. So yeah, I like her patience was full on display there. But there's a difference between tolerating somebody's presence and then wanting to jump them at the end of the movie. What? Like what?
Yeah, that was like a total 180 there.
Yeah. Yeah, it like really turned around when she's just all of a sudden like, "Hey, I love you." Like, where the fuck did this come from? Like,
I think
it would have been different. It would have been different if like if like Anakin was able to like have some sense of self-awareness, calm his shit down, and then proceed to start doing like impressive things just on his own, so that you could see Padme actually pulling for him. But he attributes no fucking likable qualities
Zero.
in the midst of this.
his mom thinks
and
he's
she's
cool.
just like, I think I'll fuck him. All right.
You know, Ryan, that's called character development in the industry.
Don't lie to me. I've seen character development done well.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that like that's how you do character development. What you just described in this movie, it was like.
It just doesn't.
It's like George Lucas took his like nephew who was going through like a scene kid phase at the time, and like was like, "Hey, can you write some dialogue for me real quick?"
Oh my god.
So I have to ask then, how does this creepy romance bullshit compare to other creepy romance bullshit from movies such as the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man or the Edward Cullen Twilight character, or there's another example I had a second ago and I lost it. Oh, Dennis from Always Sunny. Like, how does this compare to all those guys?
oh, we're not gonna put Dennis in that. That shit's funny.
Dennis is very purposeful.
The Dennis system.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
He's just a straight creep, and everybody knows it. Amazing Spider-Man, like That's creepy too, like when he's like stalking her and shit, but at least they're around the same age, and it's not like she knew him as a little boy and now he's just like hanging around and then they get together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but at the same time though, he promises the police chief, "Oh, I'm not going to go after your daughter, but I'm totally going to go after your daughter."
Fucking Spider-Man being a liar. Yeah, that's true. Damn it.
It's been so long since I watched Twilight.
I've never
I
seen it. I
watched
just
it.
know it's creepy.
I just remember where he sparkled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it, I want to say late last year. It was, Allegra made me. She forced me to watch all 4 of these fucking movies.
No way. All
of them.
Brutal.
I had to. And I was courting her, so I didn't want to bitch out. I was just like, all right.
So Ryan, you have to
baby.
compare Anakin for us then. How does Anakin
Yes.
compare to Vampire Man?
Okay, so
Vampire
I think the stark difference is that, like, I don't know, it like Anakin thirsting like hella hard is just such a weird fucking look, but it's actually only really comparable to Bella, because Bella's the one chasing Edward all the goddamn time. Like, he wants her, but he's also telling himself no because it's just entirely wrong, and she keeps chasing him. So you could tell there is mutual attraction, and the adult in the situation's like, no, this is not great. We really shouldn't do this, until he says, okay, let's just go ahead and do this. And then it's like 4 movies of him just fucking dragging it out until he finally like lets himself do what the hell he wanted to do in movie 1. So I don't know. Like it's like you can slightly understand the attraction in Twilight. It's still really poorly written.
It's also got a big age difference too, doesn't it? Like he's like 1,000 years old or some bullshit.
Oh yeah. Like I said the adult in the situation, like very, very purposefully, because he's several times older than her.
Yeah, he's God, how many generations older?
What's with these young millennials thirsting for these old cougars? I swear.
Just thirsty bitches everywhere, man. It's horrible. But yeah, no, thirsty bitch is a terrible look on Anakin. It's just
it really
super bad.
is.
And and it was compounded by the fact that he had no redeeming like features, or that they didn't allow both sides of the equation to be on display. We knew why Anakin was hot for Padme. The only reason Padme has to be hot for Anakin is because
the plot
it's that
demands
cute little boy that I used to babysit in the last fucking movie, which is a terrible reason to wanna jump someone. That's just god awful. But we're gonna disregard that whole troublesome thing.
I want to correct you real quick, Ryan. The reason's not because of the little boy Anakin from the first movie that she wants to be with him. It's because George Lucas said, hey, I need you to be Luke and Leia's mom, so you're going to fall in love with Anakin, you're going to like it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Plot-driven convenience. That is entirely what it was.
And then I'm sure she responded with, okay, well, do I get to be their mother? And he's like, well, no, you're going to die right away from a broken heart.
Yep.
So
that'll be next week's problem.
Also true.
So before we go on to this next point, I just want to bring up one thing.
Yes.
Can we talk about Anakin's goofy ass haircut compared to everybody else?
So, the rat tail, Amanda brought up when we were watching. She was
yeah.
confused as to why there's a rat tail bullshit going on. She's like, it looks terrible. Why do they have it? And I'm like, I tried to explain it with the lore I'm familiar with. And she's like, I get that. It's still stupid, though.
It is. It is.
It's still dumb.
The argument, it's still stupid, though, has no effect on George Lucas. Otherwise, the Padme-Anakin relationship would have got thrown out the fucking window. Be like, well, these two people have to get together in order for Luke and Leia, the protagonists of the original trilogy, to come to actually come into existence. Yeah, but how we're doing it is stupid. Irrelevant! Do it! Fucking put it on film.
Well,
Oh,
Ryan, we have entered the era of Star Wars, where no one was around to tell Lucas no. So all he did was just scribble things on a piece of paper and hand it to people saying, "Make it happen!"
Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure "It's Still Stupid" was exactly what his wife told him during the divorce.
Boom, roasted.
Jesus Christ. Roasted, toasted, burnt to a crisp. Oh, God.
Well, the reason she divorced him, obviously, is because in bed all he could ever say was faster and more intense.
Oh, my God.
Which is a reference to a podcast in 2 weeks. Get ready for it.
Oh, that's good.
No.
So I got some other questions here for you boys. Like, for example, we've been talking a little bit Padme and about her, that whole connection. So I got to ask you guys. In the beginning of the film, there's an assassination attempt where the ship explodes and it kills Dorm, I believe is what her name is.
Yes.
And she's like, "I'm sorry I failed you." I want to pause and just ask you guys, why is this considered a failure? She's supposed to take the hit for Padme. If anything, this is the most successful diversion of an assassination ever. Am I right?
Well, my guess is that she thinks that she failed by not being able to continue protecting her. I mean, that was what I tried to tell myself to try to make it make sense. Because that's what would make sense.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not, but that would be my guess.
Anyone else want to dive into this one?
That sounds right to me.
I would say probably just bad story writing, in which they didn't... Somebody probably did say, "Hey, that doesn't make sense."
And then Lucas just responded with faster, more intense.
Yeah, that's probably
Or
what
it is like she sees her job as preventing it to begin with.
That's also.
That's not her
that's
job,
true.
though. That's the security officer's job. The pirate guy failed. She didn't.
The pirate guy. That eye patch was pretty sweet.
It was all right. Not Nick Fury good, but it was all right.
That's true. That's true.
Speaking of that assassination attempt, though, so the first attempt was an explosion. Not a bad start. You could have gotten the job if they timed it right. But then they go from that to just dropping some bugs in a room and hoping that they would eventually get her. Why didn't they just shoot another explosive into that room when no one was looking? Because, like, she was sleeping. No one could stop it.
That's I don't have a good answer for that. Because that's I mean, if you just had like a rocket launcher and just shoot it in there, it'd probably get the job done instead of that little centipede weird ass thing that they cut in half.
Like even a cat.
I mean, they did mention that they wanted to take a more subtle approach, but at the same time, it's like, did she are those bugs is that like poisonous ass like assassin beetle that you just launched in there? Is that relative naturally occurring on Coruscant? I mean, did you expect the beetle to like escape afterwards? What the fuck?
Well, see, what you should have done is give Jar Jar Binks a box of scissors, and he would have just tripped and killed her with those, probably.
You're talking about Darth Jar Jar. Let's pump the brakes here. I mean,
That's for a few more weeks, Aaron.
he set this all in motion and got his apprentice, the Emperor, emergency powers.
Ryan, you're pulling your hair out over there. I can see it already.
No, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself, Ryan.
So let us diverge into this plot point here, because this is fun. So can we all agree that in regards to the war and the clone army and everything else and the fall of the Jedi and all the events leading to the rise of the Empire, that they're all the fault of Jar Jar Binks?
Yes.
Absolutely. 100%.
Actually, I'm confused how he even had a job, to be completely frank. Because they both saw him in action. And in what way did they were like, yeah, this creature we found, capable?
Well, okay, so Max, there's two theories I have on this one. You hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
Theory number one, as Robbie pointed out, he is Darth Binks, and he's manipulated the situation to get in that position. That is the popular theory. The fun theory. The theory I think makes the most sense, though, is that he won the popular vote and someone else... He won the electoral college vote and someone else won the popular vote, and they're like, well, electoral college wins out, so I guess he just gets the job.
Fucking... Okay, but with the Darth Binks one, right? Let's unpack that a little bit here.
Okay, let's unpack it.
Yes.
In no way, shape, or form was he good at manipulating in that first episode.
I think it was more just... It wasn't manipulation per se, but it was more just, hey, I'm going to be here making sure you don't fuck us up, Palpatine. So I'm going to pretend to be an idiot while everyone else is just, like, completely oblivious.
The Jedi never suspected him. That's the whole point.
Well, of course, it's because they're arrogant motherfuckers.
Fuckers, exactly.
Why did they not...
Like, hey, this dumbass can't get one over on us.
Why did they not put him on a ship as soon as this was all over? And send him back?
Roll Jar Jar Binks up in a carpet and throw him off a bridge is what I say.
Fucking Rasputin him.
Oh.
What the fuck?
But, honestly, in reality, though, like, the reason he's in that position is because of the quote-unquote adventures that they had in that first one. I think everybody had a soft spot for him, even though he's a fucking idiot.
cronyism.
Yeah. No, but I'm just being real. Like, the Gungan leader is like, hey, Jar Jar's our guy. He helped connect our two kingdoms together. And, Padme's basically in charge of Naboo, so she's like, oh, Jar Jar's my guy. That's probably what honestly would happen. And it's just like, this is fucking stupid because he's an idiot. But
I honestly think that the popular vote thing knows that it has to be accurate. Because remember that general from the first movie, the one who was working alongside Jar Jar.
Yeah.
I guarantee you the two of them were in competition for Boss Nass's spot. And like I said, the general probably won the popular vote. Everyone's like, okay, he's competent. Let's vote him in. But then Jar Jar, like I said, he got the electoral college. And he's like, Misa in charge now. I think that makes sense. Don't make fun of my little hands.
Keep in mind, Jar Jar was seen as a war hero from the battle, mistakenly, but he was seen as a war hero, and he was credited with actually getting the Gungans and the Naboo to agree to peace talks. So he's seen as an important figure in unifying the planet, on one accord.
Maybe Ryan.
It's entirely a comedy of errors, and this person should not even fucking exist. But as the story has progressed, unfortunately, it means that there's a whole ass planet of people that see him as important and good and a good representative of the Gungan people, which is really fucking just sad. It's just sad.
Make Naboo great again.
Oh, god damn it.
But no, Ryan, I want to point out something, though. Of course Jar Jar's a war hero. It has to be, because he was never taken as a prisoner, and he doesn't view anyone as a prisoner as a hero at all.
George Lucas can see into the future.
He can. Yeah, he's clairvoyant.
I wonder who knows the future better now, him or The Simpsons. It's a tough call.
Oof. I still think Simpsons is on a roll with
for sure.
Yeah.
Fucking predicting that Fox buyout. Holy shit.
We'll talk about this after the
that's
podcast,
crazy.
But
little bit.
God damn. Okay.
Okay. I got questions here. Okay. So let's see. Skip that. Okay. Did you have any feels when Anakin's mom died? Why or why not?
No. Because I really did not feel that connected to her after the first episode, which might sound a little bit fucked up, but I don't know, there just wasn't a lot. And then I
mean, she was barely a character, for being honest.
She was barely a character, and then all of a sudden she shows up in episode 2 out of nowhere. So I'm I had to
well, I mean, she was in episode 1, so they were kind of banking on the emotional tie you had from episode 1, a movie that came out fucking 2 years later.
That was a horrible move.
Oh, it was absolutely a terrible move. I felt a small amount of sadness simply because she didn't deserve it. Because she was a very nice person and like she was trying to do the best for her kid. I wasn't emotionally tied to her character, but I did feel bad seeing horrible shit happen to her. But that's it. That's all you get.
I think it would have been more impactful if we could connect to Anakin more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sucks in this movie, so it's like it has really nothing to do with anything with Shmi, you know, like yeah, she was a really nice woman and treated her son, you know, great for the situation they were in episode 1, but it's like Anakin sucks now, so I know this was supposed to set this off and like it set up this he could definitely go down the dark side path because he just crushes those Tusken Raiders, you know. But I don't know. It didn't have the impact that it probably should have.
Yeah. I agree with you. The like the fact that Anakin was not wasn't a great character at all. Definitely lessened the impact of her tragedy because her tragedy was done specifically to get us more connected to Anakin and to see Anakin kind of progress to the dark side. But if we don't give a shit about Anakin, then we're not gonna really give a shit about the tragedy meant to befall him.
It's a problem with the movie that I'll bring up here in a few questions, but I definitely think that her being in this scene and so the whole scene basically for those who are just joining us, so you see Anakin right off in the sunset. You had this epic Duel of the Fates song playing, but then he talks to some Jawas and the song's still playing. You're like, okay, this intense music doesn't seem very fitting. And then he shows up at the camp. He sneaks in. His mom just kind of dies right on the spot, and then he kind of goes kill crazy off screen. And I don't feel like the emotional payoff they're trying to build up to is really earned. It's like you guys said, he's not a very good character, but they're also trying to bank us on the whole Shmi being killed thing. But again, we only just got back to her after 2 years of waiting for films to come out, and she wasn't really the biggest character in either of these two films. Like, she was kind of important in the previous one, but drastically overshadowed by everybody else in the film. And here, she's just there for 5 minutes and dies, and then it just seems like she's there as little more than a plot device, which, to be fair, in here, she is.
Yeah. Can I jump in there? And I just remembered something.
Yeah.
I think what they were trying to tie in here was, if you remember in the first movie when he goes with Qui-Gon, he says, "I'll come back for you, Mom." And this is like trying to show that he still wants to fulfill that promise and he can't. So I think they were trying to have this emotional payoff for that. But a lot of people don't remember that because it was just such a one-off thing. Like, I literally just thought of it. I was like, oh, yeah, he said that in the first movie. So I think it was supposed to be kind of evolved around that. Not only just showing his path to the dark side, but also trying to fulfill his promise that he made to his mom when she let him go try to be a Jedi.
I think you're right. But I think that the way they did it was certainly rushed.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of things rushed in this film, which I'll get to here in a couple questions. But before we get to that, I do have another question regarding the villain of the film. Are you guys ready for this?
Ooh.
Oh, Dooku?
Yeah, the Dookie. So
what a fucking name.
So why did they go with Darth Tyrannus / Dooku as the antagonist going forward? And what could they have done to make him better? Because I'm not going to lie, of all the villains Star Wars has had, he's kind of the one that puts me to sleep the fastest. and Christopher Lee is really good at what he does usually. It's just, he's not given much to do here.
It should have been Darth Maul with his spider legs.
Ooh, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
But
they hadn't thought of that yet.
Well, I think also I do agree with the Darth Maul because for another reason. And that's that when you first see Darth Maul in Episode 1, it's a hell of a lot more menacing.
Oh, for sure.
Then you just see fucking Christopher Lee. Like, just sitting there.
I was Nosferatu.
Like, I just think Darth Maul had a lot more of a shock value to the audience.
I could see that. I definitely agree with that. But I think they were aiming for somebody with more gravitas and, someone with lines in the script. So, if you get Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee is a prominent actor who's done a bunch of shit. So, if you actually were able to get Christopher Lee, you definitely want to make use of him. I believe the problems with Count Dooku, aside from his fucking name, was entirely script based. I liked having this kind of older, more refined Jedi. I really like this older, more refined Sith to kind of give you a different look on it, because all we've known of the Sith thus far are spooky guy in black cloak that throws lightning at you.
Yeah. Big
ass black cyborg that moves slowly and yet murders people by the dozens, and spiky horn demon. So I like that they gave him a different look. And I like that of the crazy ass Sith that we've seen in the in the series, Dooku is like the most successful, because the two protagonists of the fucking show up, and he handles both of them like at the same time. Yoda shows up and he handles Yoda.
In their defense, Anakin really wasn't doing the whole teamwork thing. They probably would have had more chance if he actually listened.
Very true. But I'm not saying that he just fucking raffle stomped them, because even at their best he was better. I'm not saying that. But I do like the idea that if we're gonna really make it so that this guy handily beats the two protagonists to kind of throw an Empire Strikes Back vibe on this movie, I'm glad that they kind of gave it a different look. I can appreciate the difference that we've seen.
Well, and they couldn't let my boy Obi-Wan go 3 for 3 with cutting up Darth.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm a little mad that they didn't go. We didn't get to see Darth Tyrannus.
That's true.
Because we always knew him as Count Dooku, which was the stupidest fucking name I've ever heard. And you really only get to see how menacing and tyrannical Darth Tyrannus could be in the Clone Wars, in the actual show. In the show, he was spooky as hell.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, he would he wasn't trying to maintain this this cover or just play up like a fucking diplomat or the representative of the Separatists. He's nope, I'm a fucking Sith Lord. I represent the guy that's gonna run the entire galaxy, and if you don't do as I say, you're gonna get choked out. So let's go. And I like that. I like that look.
I want to add to that too. So we said earlier about Darth Maul, and it should have been him. I think Darth Maul should have definitely been around. You would have had to redo this film in a lot of different ways, but I think he should have been a B plot, as a forced to come after Obi-Wan as revenge throughout the trilogy, because that's who he'd want to probably kill the most.
Well, and that's basically what he does in Star Wars Rebels and stuff.
And as for Darth Tyrannus, I still think he should be here. Maybe not Dooku per se, but I definitely think a fallen Jedi or betraying Jedi is definitely an interesting plotline to have.
That's fair, yeah. But
I definitely think that he should have been the main antagonist, with Darth Maul in the background to come back later on in the series.
Yeah, that would have been really cool, I think.
But I think this movie had a lot of problems juggling what it had already. That would have been very difficult for them to pull off here, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, this is called Attack of the Clones. So we have a big, faceless CGI droid army versus a big, faceless CGI clone army. How invested are you in this conflict?
So, the whole clone thing, man, I don't know. I was really confused when I was a kid watching this. I was like, so some dude pretended to be a Jedi and make these clones, and I don't know. You're not really, because it's not really the fight. You are a part of this because you want to see Jedi versus Sith, not these droid guys versus a bunch of dudes that look the same. And you know they're going to be turned into stormtroopers anyway, so.
Yeah. Like, the idea for me is a war story, a war conflict is only really interesting if there are characters who you can, like, who are personified and you can connect with. But it's hard to do that when one side of the conflict is a bunch of robots and the side of the conflict is the same dude a million times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they do a better job of this in the.
I was about to
TV
bring
show.
that up.
Yeah. And I figured you guys were gonna do that, but
But here they don't.
It's hard for this movie, yeah.
Like even with the Jedi characters in play, it's like I don't. They're tangentially connected, and I just don't feel like this conflict has that big of stakes for me personally. But maybe that's just me.
I mean, I think so the stakes for this particular movie, in my opinion, isn't necessarily the huge battle that pops off, but rather what it means moving forward. Because now essentially there are where there was only one group of separatists that were amassing an army that nobody really knew about. It was like a big ass army came out. And then a secret, even more big-ass army came out. And now, all of a sudden, the galaxy, which was just with a little civil unrest, is now entirely at war. That's where the stakes happen for me, personally, at the end.
Yeah.
Where it's just no, we're now a war has begun. And now we've got, 10 years of bullshit that we have to deal with. That wasn't just this one fight. The fight for me was cool because you get to see masses of Jedi actually fighting. That's what hooked me about the last fight in particular. You hear about the Clone Wars and the Jedi fought in the Clone Wars, and you're well, these are these peerless warriors and whatnot. And I was still hooked on the fact that we knew so little about the Jedi Order and the lost lightsaber forms, that anything we got to see regarding Jedi actually fighting, I was just kind of salivating over. So that's what hooked me when I saw it, and I still think it still maintained its appeal for me personally watching it today.
That's fair. Max, should I weigh in on that at all?
I think it's been covered, man. I don't have anything to add.
Fair enough. Okay. So I had a problem with this film in particular with the jump cutting around everywhere. One thing that it did was it would have one scene focus on the mystery story with Obi-Wan. Then it cuts over to the action scene, or then it cuts to a romance scene. Then it cuts to a comedic scene. It's all over the place, and I feel like it breaks tension with needless comedy, and it also really jumbles up the story because it just shakes up that tone so much, going from one kind of storyline to another. We mentioned it earlier, how it tries to do all these different things, but I don't think there's enough focus on any one thing for you to really latch on to that idea for more than maybe a minute or two before it immediately jumps to the next thing.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys noticed? What do you guys feel about that?
I think I agree in the sense that it does break tension a lot. And to be honest, I think what they were trying to do and the result were two very different things. I think they were initially going for more of a, yeah, this is serious, but it's not. They didn't want it to be completely serious all the time, which is kind of fine in my opinion. It's not ideal with this series, but I think the way they did it was that they did it in the most inopportune fucking times humanly possible.
Well, a good example is during the execution scene. Everyone's like, "Oh no, we're gonna die!" And then you cut over to C-3PO, who's got his head all fucked up. It's like, okay, listen, we know that's funny, but these guys are seriously gonna die over here.
Well, that and you should be using that suspense to make audience genuinely questioned, are all of these characters going to make it out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, you're like, well, come on. The chances of it, the chances in the audience's mind of a character dying is then significantly reduced. So...
Now in fairness to the film, this is a prequel, so most fans know already, Obi-Wan's going to make it, Anakin's going to make it, because they go on and yada, yada, yada. But definitely you're right, especially for the fans who are just joining in on this series before they start the older ones, because I know a lot of people who are younger did start with these films, so they aren't going to be as aware of that. So
well, that's kind of where my framework is coming from, as somebody who... These movies were already out after I was... Like, right after I was born. So, by the time I could watch these and kind of understand it, it was 1 through 6 is how my dad made me watch it. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, and, like, for me, I'm glad you brought that up, Max, because, like, it was hard watching these, because you know what's going to happen. So, it's like... There's no real, like, what's the right word for it? Stakes. Because you know Obi-Wan is going to make it. You know Anakin's going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made it hard because I'm older and I watched the original trilogy when I was younger and then these came out. So, but I did want to mention, Aaron, like, I actually really enjoyed Obi-Wan's subplot with, like, the detective.
I think each individual subplot is... decent, but I think just mashing them all together that way, it just doesn't work.
The way they sewn these together is really terrible.
Yeah.
But I did like
the part,
yeah, it was like a Jedi Batman detective thing, which I dug. So.
Ryan, anything you want to add, or should I move on?
No. I mean, you guys have pretty much got it covered.
I have to double check because I feel like if someone's quiet, it's like, well, they may be trying to get a word in, so I got to double check and make sure.
No.
Okay, last two here. CGI Yoda or Yoda and the Yoda duel. Does it work? Does it fail? Why or why not?
Right.
We alluded to this earlier. We alluded to it earlier.
Let's talk about CGI for a second, right?
Okay.
Let's kind of define this.
Well, before we begin, I want to say this. CGI Yoda is still better than CGI Sonic and the cats.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, these cats are wrong.
I have a...
God damn it.
I'll talk to you guys about some shit about that after the podcast.
Yeah.
CGI, I think, has a bad connotation in the sense that, like, when people think CGI, they think of the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, I could see that.
But in reality, CGI can be well done, and actually it's a big part of most movies. And you just don't realize it a lot of times. With that being said, who was hiring people during this? Because, like, first of all, we've already talked that the cast wasn't ideal, and people like Christopher Lee, who was, like, a well-renowned actor, didn't really have much to go off of.
Faster, more intense.
But with CGI, they completely failed, because what were some movies that also came out that year?
Spider-Man, Lord of the Rings 2, you name it.
Specifically, yeah.
And that has CGI, and guess what? It's decent. So I think they really fucked up.
Well, the old adage goes, good CGI is the kind of stuff you don't realize is there.
Yeah. And
yeah, definitely.
like, it felt so weird because it felt like it just felt so fake. And it felt so, to me, it felt really clunky at times, the animation.
Yeah, well, I mentioned it last week with Jar Jar Binks and how I felt like his animations and his design was just mind-bogglingly horrifying to me. Like, I watched the Blu-ray of that one. Like, it's like a re-release, remake, whatever, like a polished-up version. And I don't know what they did, but he looks scarier now than he ever did as a kid to me.
Wait, who is that?
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
But with Yoda, for example, so I felt like in this film, you had the... So imagine the movie, if you will, as a layer. The background layer is a CG, is a green screen everyone acted in front of. The next layer is the actors themselves. And then the next layer on top of that is like a cartoon doodle of Yoda just being dragged around the screen, kind of like with a mouse or something, just to kind of, you know, get him in the scene and everything. And that's kind of what it felt like to me. It felt like a very slapdash attempt at it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I hear you guys. I think like on the other side of the coin, and the reason why it was such a hallmark moment for me was because you have like fucking 30 years of seeing this small ass little guy that you know is a master of the Force. You know, like he can fucking lift a ship with his mind, and he's one of the wisest people like in the galaxy. You know he's boss. And you've seen him, but you never really get to see him in action. You don't think of him that way. And like, honest to God, the moment when Dooku says like this isn't going to be contested with our skills in the Force, but with our skills in the lightsaber, and fucking Yoda throws the cane away.
Yeah.
It's like,
dude, it was so badass.
Oh no, is this happening? And then he pulls it. And then he just starts zipping the fuck around faster than you've ever seen him move. Like, it was just the moment in and of itself. Like, going from polar opposite to what we actually understood of the character. Like people can point to that scene. Like, there are a bunch of really good scenes in Two Towers. It's a phenomenal movie, no doubt. But you can't point to like one specific battle scene between two people and say, shit, that you remember that? That was the shit. But everybody can remember how they felt when they saw Yoda pull out his lightsaber for the first time.
I remember. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm on the same boat as Ryan, and I get what you're saying, Max, with the CGI and, you know, whatever, but I still got fucking jacked up when he dropped that cane, because I was like, yes, here it comes again. Like, I was that little boy again when I was watching this in the theater, because you were so fucking pumped when you saw this, because, like Ryan said, it was Yoda. He was this super Jedi, and you never got to see him do anything besides, you know, raise that ship with his mind. And you're like, you know he's a boss with that lightsaber. Then you finally got to see it. It was incredible. And I have to say it was better than the weird looking puppet they had, not in the original trilogy,
but the first
in
movie.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
I know they fixed that, quote unquote. And
now it's CGI at any new releases.
But I saw the original in the theater in 1999. It was fucking scary as hell. I don't know about you guys. So, I'm with Ryan on this one. I loved it.
I will start with Max, and here's my 2 cents on it real quick. So we talked about how the character looks and how he animates. So I want to jump in one thing. So the best duel in Star Wars I can argue with is the Darth Maul fight, and the reason I like it is because every hit of the lightsaber and every like movement each of the characters has weight to it. It feels like they're really there, really clashing. It just has a really good impact on everything. Compare it to this fight here. When I see Yoda fighting Dooku, it kind of reminds me of a video game where you're like using melee attacks and they aren't really like connecting with the opponent or anything. I feel like Dooku's just kind of waving around his lightsaber at this non-existent thing, because obviously it's CGI, he's not there. But he's just waving his lightsaber around, and we just have Yoda just jumping all over the place. But, I mean, there's no weight to any of their attacks. There's no real clashing happening. And I feel like that, as a kid, I was really into it because I didn't know any better. As a kid, I'm like, this is cool. But now that I'm older, now that I've seen how these kind of animations and these characters operate in games and movies and everything, I can look at it and just kind of see, yeah, it's superficially cool, but when you really stop and look at it, you realize, oh, there's something not quite right here.
What do you think it would look like if they could do this now with technology now? Would you be on board?
That's a hard sell because you could still have bad-looking CGI characters.
No,
now,
I agree.
But
I'm just saying,
basing it off of
the
current quality of
basing it off what Disney's done with the franchise so far, because they've done a solid job with the CGI and the practical effects and mixing them together. I am more apt to believe that Disney running the show, they could make this look better.
Which they would.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
I'm behind it.
I'm not going to say I'm sold on it, but I'd be apt to believe they'd be more likely to pull it off.
I'd be interested to see it. Not that it's going to happen, because,
yeah.
Yoda doesn't fit in the story anymore.
Well, if they ever get back to
but...
prequel stuff, I mean, who knows?
Hey, I'm all on board with them remaking it and changing everything. we could still get to, Anakin turning the dark side, just start over.
I'd be cool with just an Obi-Wan spin-off movie. I know they said they weren't going to do them anymore, but that's like the one spin-off I was okay with seeing.
Yeah, we need McGregor back, man.
Yeah,
as an older person, it'd be badass.
# bring back McGregor.
Like a western in the fucking sand.
I mean, Obi-Wan is touted to be like a hero of the Jedi Order who has done like countless things and really earned his title as master. So you get to see some of that in the Clone Wars, but I would absolutely love to just see just more shit of him just going off and doing his own thing.
Oh yeah.
All right, gentlemen, final question of the evening before we move on to ranking the film. This movie has set up a lot of stuff for Clone Wars, which we never see in the films. We do get TV shows, we do get spin-offs, but it does feel like a little bit of letdown, at least to me, that the Clone Wars are relegated to small screen content versus versus big screen. How do you guys feel about that idea?
There's a ton of stuff in the Clone Wars which I think would have been great in live action. I mean, shit, I wish they could do it today. Like, it'd be awesome, but yeah, I'm disappointed because you go from the start of the Clone Wars to the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you skip all this great content, how long does it last? It's like 10 years?
Something like that.
Something like that.
You got a decade of awesome storylines, true battles. You get to see, Jedis be, generals. You get to see the clones actually have personalities like Rex. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know.
Well, as someone who grew up loving so there was like this Clone Wars 2D animated series I watched as a kid. Yeah, I think you might remember it. It came out around the same time as the third movie. They were animated beautifully, and I was introduced to General Grievous through that, and he was a fucking monster. And after that came out...
Psycho, yeah.
Yeah, and ever since episode 3, he has been absolute shit. I will talk about that more next week, but, just the hype of stuff like that, not making it to the big screen, very disappointing to me. Very disappointing.
And here's the, I think, when now that we're revisiting the movies, I honestly think a lot of the story that Lucas wanted to portray, it's actually better set on a smaller screen. And the reason why is simply because of the time constraint. Yeah. There's a lot of shit to get to pack into, even pack in for a fucking 2.5 hour movie. Even spaced out over 9 movies, there's still so much story that falls between the cracks, which is why the extended universe got so big. Which is why the Clone Wars was so amazing, because they could take the time to really hone in on those small, great stories that Star Wars is chock full of. When you're transitioning it to the big screen, you have to pick 1 or 2 really important ones and then tell the fuck out of it. And it doesn't really gel with the concept of putting together an entire saga unless you have 21 movie slots that you can fill. I'm looking at you, MCU. Like that's really the only kind of medium that you can tell this large, expansive story with. So I don't know.
Ryan, I think you're right though. Like, with this, it's almost better to have it in this episodic, not episode 1, 2, 3, but on the small screen to make that work, because you have so many stories. I feel the same way about some comic book material. Like, it's almost better if you could do it on the small screen, because then you could tell a whole season arc of multiple episodes where you have the one-offs, kind of like a comic book, where you have the one-off villain, but you have this major story going on in the background. Because in the movie, you have to have it all happen within that, 2.5 hours. So, that's a good thought.
I mean, it's rough. It's the same concept as like transitioning a book to a movie. There's only so much that you can tell, so much that you can show in the time frame, in the runtime for the movie.
Yep.
You're gonna miss a lot of stuff. And where a book has like 1,000 pages to really go into these small detailed moments and really make you feel like the world itself is like living and breathing, and these are real characters in it that are just trying to make it through. You don't have that much time. You can't pay that much attention to detail in a 2-hour runtime. So shit has to, like, you either have to, I feel like with the movie, you have to pick one story and tell it really, really well. And that's why books don't really have great conversion rates to a movie, because a book can have several stories in it that really all tell one large story. And if you seek to tell that one large story and jam-pack it into 2 hours, you're going to miss some of the really good small stuff.
Okay, I'm officially back.
Right.
Officially back.
All right.
To add to that, Ryan, I think that a good thing to adapt to a movie is definitely like a short story. Those definitely can fit in like a 2 to 3 hour block much more easily than a novel can. Kind of like, Harry Potter or X-Men or anything like that. Those are just so big and epic that they definitely need to be like a TV serial for sure.
I think it's safe to assume that we all, like in primary school, probably grew up reading like the Star Wars books that were canon at the time and stuff like that. So actually, Ryan, we've talked about this a lot before. When
I was pissed when they decanonized the EU.
Yeah. We talked about this like 3 years ago.
That worthless EU.
I don't know why I remember this.
I'm still a little mad, but yeah, no, I hear you.
But God, how much time? Like, how much story material is there?
Too much. Like New Jedi Order was like 20 to 30 books, and it was all focused around like an alien race from another fucking galaxy invading.
Yeah.
And there were like these beings who were somehow removed from the Force, and so direct Force powers wouldn't work on them, who made who built their entire structure of technology around bioengineering and like growing things to serve their purposes, so everything that they used was alive. Their fucking ships were made of living coral, and they were propelled by these beings that could create and produce gravitonic waves.
Shit.
Fucking it involved the entire like Jedi Order having to shift their philosophy on the Force in order to incorporate how to beat these guys. Like, what?
And how are we going to fit any of that into 3 movies?
You can't.
Oh, yeah.
There's no fucking way.
So, like, I think
if you can do 10 books in a movie, then sure, come on.
Ryan, that's like trying to shove an entire TV series into one movie. It's impossible. You can't make 20 episodes into one cohesive movie.
So therefore, episodic probably works best.
Yeah. For the story that Lucas is trying to tell with Star Wars, I definitely think a smaller screen allots for more runtime and more things that you can tell, more focus that you can give to the intricacies that really make your story amazing.
Well, that is just watching the prequels, and if you've never watched Clone Wars, which shame on you if you haven't. But, like, you're still, like, just that alone, you're missing out on so much lore that can really change how you feel about it.
For sure.
So,
Yeah. And if you want to,
piss poor.
if you want to share your favorite parts of the Star Wars lore with us, you can reach out to us on our various social media pages. Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, they're all there. You can all find them all. And you also can reach out to us directly if you'd like to reach out to us. Ryan, how can they reach us directly?
They can reach us at I still hate sand at excuse me evacstation at gmail.com.
That damn sand. We didn't even cover that at all. I feel like we don't need to.
Fucking sand.
It's there. It happened.
just
It's
skip over it.
coarse.
So, with that, this is where we rank the film. Max, Robbie, I don't know how familiar you are with the ranking system with the gold, silver, platinum real quick, but I'll give a quick rundown.
Yeah.
Platinum's our best rank, and then it goes gold, silver, bronze, stone, dirt, and shit. Shit being the absolute most offensive films they could possibly be. I don't think we're going to reach that level today. I don't think it's that bad. But that being said, we're going to go ahead and rank this film real quick on our scale. Who would like to take a stab at it first? For frame of reference, Ryan, I think we both agreed bronze for Phantom Menace last time. Was that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we were at last time. I'm gonna say. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's let the guest go first. Who would like to stab at it first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I think I would put it at the same level as the Phantom Menace. I think it's similar where there's a lot of problems, but it has a few very memorable scenes, like I mentioned before. And Ewan McGregor was great again, just like he was in the original. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you guys will talk about that on the next one
Absolutely.
as well. So I think that's where I'm at on that.
All right.
I have to agree here. I mean, it's not like the shittiest movie I've ever seen by any means. Because God knows I've seen some shitty-ass movies. But it wasn't horrible to sit through. There was just at times that, like, I thought to myself, well, this is getting boring, or I'm just not enjoying it as much as I could. And then I would, like, look over to my little cousin, who was damn near falling asleep at some parts.
He was cutting himself out of boredom.
Like,
God.
So, bronze.
That's fair. Ryan?
I think the question that I keep asking myself is, was it worse than Phantom Menace? And I don't believe it was. I think it tried some newer things and succeeded as much as it failed regarding those newer things. I think the attempts were good. Again, I mentioned like their brief foray into trying to like kind of make it a bit of a detective novel, giving Obi-Wan like kind of his own like time to shine, and like looking into Camino and having that one-on-one with Jango Fett was boss. That was a lot of fun to watch. Getting to see the Jedi Order full force like go out into the battlefield, the sparkling of the Clone Wars. Like there were a lot of good things about the movie. It was just weighed down by some of the things it was trying to do, and some of the cast. Hayden. So I think it balanced itself out. It tried to make strides on Phantom Menace, but it kind of fell short a little bit. So I would keep it at the same level. Yeah, I'd give it a bronze.
I will be a contrarian here because I have to be. So I think that I think all the problems we listed are problematic. I don't think it's a horrible film by any means, but I think the lack of focus and the clearly misguided direction of the film in certain bits, especially with stuff like Christensen, for example, or the forced romance or anything like that, I feel like a lot of elements really kind of soured the pudding, if you know what I mean. And the good parts are great. I'm not going to say they're not. But I don't think they necessarily outweigh the parts that don't quite work. I think that is better balanced in the next film, which we'll get to next week. But, and I have to rewatch it to verify for sure. I'm going to say this is a step below Phantom Menace. Not a massive difference. I'm going to put it stone just on the grounds that, like I said, it lacks focus in a cohesive direction. And I think had they narrowed that focus down and really did some cuts to fix it, it could have been a stronger bit. It could have been a stronger film on its own.
All right, no, that's fair. That's fair critique.
Yeah. So next week, guys, we'll be covering Revenge of the Sith. Now, I know we haven't discussed this yet, but Robbie, Max, do either of you guys want to jump in on that with us?
You said next week?
Yep.
I don't think I can. Schedule wise.
I hear you.
I don't think it's gonna work. Sorry, man.
That's cool. It's cool.
I would love to talk about it because I definitely have thoughts on that movie because I ended up watching it after I watched this.
Oh,
one.
really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, I'll just watch this too.
I was like, if you want to provide your 2 cents, like real quick before we cut out, we could always do that.
Okay. You want me to talk about it now? Or
we can close this.
You just want?
We can close this one out real quick. You stay away from that cord, you little fuck. We could close out this one real quick, and then we could just like add it in with like a sound bite here after the fact. But yeah, no, we'll definitely plan something up.
Or how about I'll record my 2 cents and I'll send it to you.
That's cool. We can do that. And then of course there's the original trilogy and the Disney trilogy coming up, so we'll definitely want to have you guys back for those if you guys want to come in for those. So.
Ooh, original trilogy.
Yep. But yeah, no, Ryan and I will certainly be back at the very least for Revenge of the Sith, the final prequel movie, and yeah, that should be interesting to say the least.
Indeed, it'll be nice to revisit that one, like because I remember that being my favorite of the trilogy, and I'm wondering if it will still hold up.
There are elements I remember that I liked a lot, but we'll get to that next week. Until then, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.